Fleet Commander Verthin stood motionless before the primary observation screen, his iridescent scales reflecting the pale blue light of the distant star these primitives called Sol. Behind him, the bridge crew of the Dominion flagship Eternal Victory worked in perfect synchronization, their movements precise and efficient, as befitting members of the galaxy's most advanced civilization. Analysis complete, Commander, Strategic Overseer Kexley announced, her voice carrying the distinctive harmonic overtones of the Imperial caste. The third planet shows clear signs of technological development, but they remain confined to their own system. Current evaluation suggests Stage 3 civilization, pre-FTL capability. Verthin's secondary eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of mild amusement. Show me their current military capabilities. The holographic display shifted, highlighting various points around the primitive world. In Nevada, United States, a collection of unusual energy signatures caught his attention. Magnify that sector, he ordered, his scales shifting to a deeper shade of blue as he focused on the readings. Inside the facility that had caught the alien commander's attention, Dr. Amanda Mitchell was having the worst morning of her professional career. The particle accelerator's containment field had been fluctuating for hours, and the latest results made absolutely no sense. "Run it again," she ordered, pushing her copper-red hair back from her face. The control room hummed with activity as her team worked to verify the impossible data. "And somebody get me more coffee." Dr. James Thompson, her longtime colleague and friend, appeared at her elbow with a steaming cup. "Already ahead of you," he said, grinning. "But Amanda, you need to look at these correlation patterns. They're not errors. We're seeing actual quantum tunneling on a macroscopic scale." "That's impossible," she muttered, but her eyes widened as she studied the new data. The energy requirements alone would. Her voice trailed off as she noticed something in the mathematical models. "Wait, James, look at this decay pattern. It's like the particles are." High above the Earth, Verthin dismissed the facility with a casual gesture. "Primitive particle physics experiments," he noted. "They're still trying to understand basic quantum mechanics, typical of Stage 3 development." "Should we eliminate the facility?" Kexley asked, her talons hovering over the weapons control interface. "It shows the highest concentration of their scientific expertise." "No," Verthin replied, his scales rippling with confidence. "Let them continue their simple experiments. Their discoveries will be added to the Dominion's archives after the conquest, though I doubt they'll contribute anything of value." He turned his attention to the orbital installations. "These will be our first targets. Standard conquest protocol. Destroy their space-based assets, then their military installations, and await surrender." Back in Nevada, Amanda's team was about to make history, in more ways than they realized. "The quantum signature is stable," she announced, her voice tense with excitement. "We're seeing consistent results across all 5 trials. James, this could revolutionize our understanding of particle physics." "It's more than that," James replied, his dark eyes intense. "Amanda, if these readings are correct, we might have just discovered a way to manipulate spacetime at a fundamental level. The military implications alone. We're scientists, not weapons developers," she reminded him, but her mind was already racing with possibilities. The patterns they were seeing suggested that their impossible results might have very practical applications. In orbit, Verthin initiated the invasion sequence. "Send the standard warning message," he ordered. "They have 1 planetary rotation to surrender and accept Dominion protection." His primary eyes fixed on the blue world below, already imagining how it would look with Dominion architecture adorning its surface. "Warning message sent," Kexley confirmed. "Shall I begin targeting their orbital platforms?" "Proceed," Verthin commanded. "Let us show these primitives the futility of resistance." Neither the proud alien commander nor the brilliant human scientist realized it yet, but their actions in the next few moments would change the course of galactic history. Humanity was about to receive its first lesson in interstellar warfare, and the Dominion was about to learn why underestimating humans was the worst mistake any species could make. The lunar base exploded in a brilliant flash of light, its reinforced dome shattering like glass under the Dominion's weapons. Dr. Amanda Mitchell watched in horror from the Nevada facility's main display screen as the feed from Lunar Station Alpha went dark. Her coffee cup slipped from numb fingers, shattering on the floor. "James was up there," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the facility's blaring alarms. "He went up yesterday for the quantum sensor installation." The room erupted into chaos as more feeds showed alien ships materializing around Earth's orbital installations. Their sleek, crystalline vessels moved with impossible grace, purple energy beams lancing out to slice through humanity's most advanced space stations like paper. "Dr. Mitchell." Colonel Sarah Wells burst into the control room, her uniform pristine despite the chaos. "We're evacuating all essential personnel. Your team's research just became our highest priority." Amanda couldn't tear her eyes from the screen. "The lunar base," she managed. "Did anyone?" "No survivors confirmed yet," Sarah replied, her voice gentler. "But we have bigger problems. Those energy weapons they're using. They're operating on principles similar to your quantum tunneling experiments." That snapped Amanda out of her shock. She grabbed her tablet, fingers flying over the surface. "The decay patterns match," she muttered. "They're not just similar. They're using the same quantum principles we just discovered, but refined. Weaponized." In orbit, Verthan watched with satisfaction as another human satellite burst into fragments. "Primitive constructions," he commented to Kexley. "They don't even have basic phase shielding." "Commander," his tactical officer interrupted, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the planetary surface." "The Nevada facility." "Irrelevant," Verthan dismissed. "Continue the demonstration. Target their largest orbital platform next." The International Space Station, humanity's crowning achievement in space, loomed before them. But as the Dominion ships moved to firing position, their sensors detected something unexpected. "Energy spike," Kexley called out. "The station is." The ISS's nuclear power core detonated in a carefully controlled explosion. The blast wave, far more focused than it should have been, caught 2 Dominion frigates in its radius. Their crystalline hulls, designed to deflect energy weapons, shattered under the primitive but precisely calculated nuclear blast. Verthan's scales flushed dark with anger. "Impossible. They couldn't have predicted our attack vector." Back in Nevada, Amanda worked furiously at her station, surrounded by military personnel and fellow scientists. "The ISS crew sacrificed themselves to get us that data," she announced, her voice tight with grief and determination. "Look at how their shields responded to the nuclear blast. They're using quantum field manipulation, just like we theorized, but their implementation has a critical flaw." Colonel Wells leaned over her shoulder, studying the readings. "Can we exploit it?" "Better." Amanda's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "We can improve on it. James's quantum sensors on the lunar base, they transmitted a complete scan of the alien ships before." She swallowed hard. "We have their shield frequencies. All of them." In orbit, Verthan received increasingly disturbing reports. Human military installations worldwide were going dark, but not in panic. Their movements suggested coordination. Purpose. The humans were preparing something. "Launch the ground attack," he ordered. "Show them the price of resistance." The first wave of Dominion landing craft descended toward Earth's atmosphere. On their screens, human cities lay defenseless before them. They never saw the hastily modified nuclear missiles coming. Missiles now wrapped in crude but effective quantum fields that bypassed their superior shields completely. The sky lit up with expanding fireballs as humanity delivered its answer to the Dominion's demonstration. In Nevada, Amanda watched the explosions with cold satisfaction. "James always said our research would change the world," she murmured, her fingers never stopping their dance across the keyboard. "He just didn't know it would help us save it." Colonel Wells placed a hand on her shoulder. "We're not done yet, Doctor. Not by a long shot." High above, Verthan watched in stunned silence as half his landing craft vanished in nuclear fire. For the first time in his long career, he felt something alien to his kind. Doubt. Colonel Rebecca Hayes stood in the underground command center of Cheyenne Mountain, watching as red dots representing Dominion ships multiplied across the tactical display. Her scarred hands gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. "Status of Project Phoenix," she demanded, her voice carrying across the hushed command floor. "First wave of hybrid ships ready for launch, Colonel," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "Dr. Mitchell's quantum shield modifications are integrated into all 20 vessels. They're not pretty, but they'll fight." Rebecca allowed herself a grim smile. The Phoenix Protocol had been her brainchild, a classified program designed to rapidly convert civilian spacecraft into military vessels in case of alien contact. Everyone had called her paranoid. Now those same critics were desperately scrambling to implement her contingency plans. Launch countdown initiated, the automated system announced. "All Phoenix vessels, prepare for emergency deployment." In orbit, Verthan's tactical officer interrupted his brooding. "Commander, multiple launches detected from Earth's surface. Their trajectories suggest combat vessels." "Impossible," Verthan snapped. "They have no combat-capable spacecraft. Show me." The display revealed 20 vessels rising from hidden silos across Earth's surface. They were ugly, brutal things. Converted cargo shuttles and space tugs bristling with hastily welded weapons and jury-rigged shield generators. "Entering weapons range," Kexley reported. "Shall I eliminate these abominations?" "Proceed," Verthan ordered. "Show them the futility off." The first salvo from his ships passed harmlessly through the human vessel's shields. The return fire, crude nuclear-tipped missiles wrapped in quantum fields matching Dominion frequencies, did not miss. 3 Dominion frigates shattered under the barrage. The human ships pressed forward, taking horrific damage but refusing to die. Verthan watched in disbelief as a human vessel, its hull practically torn in half, rammed one of his destroyers at full speed. "They're insane," Kexley whispered. "That crew sacrificed themselves just to." "All ships, maintain distance," Verthan ordered, but it was too late. The humans had closed to point-blank range, where their primitive weapons could tear through even Dominion armor. In the Cheyenne Mountain Command Center, Rebecca watched her crews fight with fierce pride. "Status on Phoenix Squadron. 8 vessels lost," Rodriguez reported grimly. "But they've taken down 12 enemy ships. The survivors are, my God, they're still fighting. Engineering teams are patching hulls mid-battle. They're using emergency bulkheads as makeshift weapons." Rebecca nodded. She'd handpicked her Phoenix crews from test pilots, submarine veterans, and special forces operators. People who knew how to think creatively in impossible situations. Order them to execute Pattern Omega. Let's show these aliens why humans never give up. The remaining Phoenix ships began an impossible maneuver, using their damaged sections as improvised shields while their intact weapons continued firing. Debris from destroyed vessels became impromptu mines, their reactor cores deliberately detonated to create devastating traps. Verthan's scales had turned pale gray. The color of fear. "Order the fleet to regroup. These humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered. They're not following any known combat doctrine." "Commander," his science officer interrupted. "Analysis of their weapons suggests they've somehow adapted our own shield technology. But they're using it in ways our engineers claimed were impossible." In the command center, Rebecca received the news she'd been waiting for. "Colonel, Dr. Mitchell reports Phase 2 modifications are ready. The next wave of Phoenix ships will have fully integrated hybrid tech." She allowed herself a predatory smile. "Send word to all Phoenix crews. Hold the line. Reinforcements are coming. And get me a secure line to the Chinese and Russian space commands. It's time to launch their converted vessels too." High above, Verthan watched in horror as more human ships rose from Earth's surface. These ones weren't ugly conversions. They were purpose-built warships, clearly constructed in secret long before the invasion. The humans hadn't been as primitive as they appeared. They had been preparing, waiting, and now they were ready to show the galaxy exactly what humanity could do when pushed too far. Lieutenant John Martinez crouched in the darkness of the boarding pod's launch tube, his modified combat suit humming with power. 24 Marines waited with him, their breath steady in his comlink. Above them, the converted cargo ship Ghostwalker approached the massive Dominion cruiser. "Remember," he whispered, checking his quantum-enhanced breaching charges, "these bastards think their internal security is perfect. Let's prove them wrong." The launch signal flashed green. Martinez felt his stomach lurch as the pod accelerated, crossing the void between ships in seconds. The Dominion vessel's shields, calibrated to stop energy weapons and missiles, didn't even register the tiny pod designed with Dr. Mitchell's quantum tunneling technology. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The pod phased through the alien hull like a ghost, materializing inside a crystalline corridor. Before the ship's internal sensors could react, Martinez's team was already moving. Their boots, magnetized with stolen Dominion tech, let them run on walls and ceilings, attacking from impossible angles. "Contact." Sergeant Sarah Cooper's voice crackled through the comm. "These guys do not like close combat." Martinez rounded a corner to see Cooper's squad engaging Dominion security forces. The aliens, tall and graceful in their combat armor, fired precise energy bolts down the corridor. But they hadn't counted on human combat doctrine. "Flash and clear," Martinez ordered. The Marines threw modified grenades that exploited the alien sensitive optical systems. While the Dominion troops staggered, humans charged into close-quarters combat. In the ship's command center, Verthan received increasingly panicked reports. "Impossible. How did they breach our hull?" "Unknown, Commander." His security chief's scales were flashing distress patterns. "They're not following any known boarding protocols. They're everywhere at once, using our own corridors against us." Martinez grinned behind his visor as his team reached their primary objective. "Engineering." Dr. Mitchell's voice came through their secure channel. "Remember, their quantum core configuration is similar to what we developed. Access ports should be on the lower level." "Copy that," Martinez replied, watching his Marines secure the room with practiced efficiency. Their combat suits, hastily upgraded with Dominion tech, let them shrug off energy weapon impacts that should have been lethal. Beginning upload sequence. Back on the bridge, Verthan's horror grew as systems began failing across his ship. "What are they doing to our engines?" "They're improving them." The engineering officer's voice rose in disbelief. "These primitives are actually optimizing our quantum core configuration while we fight them." Martinez watched the upload progress bar tick upward as Cooper's team held off alien counterattacks. The virus they were introducing wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to learn. Every system it touched provided more data for Earth scientists to analyze. "Hostile reinforcements incoming," Cooper shouted. "Big ones." Through the engineering bay's crystal walls, Martinez saw hulking combat drones approaching. Standard human weapons would barely scratch them. Good thing they weren't using standard weapons anymore. "Deploy the sunbursts," he ordered. The specialized charges, developed by combining human explosives with Dominion power cells, detonated with devastating effect. The drone's quantum crystalline bodies shattered like glass. "Upload complete," Martinez announced. "All teams, fall back to extraction points. Leave our goodbye presents behind." As the Marines retreated, they planted devices throughout the ship, not bombs, but quantum field generators that would temporarily transform portions of the vessel's hull into other states of matter. The Dominion crew would survive, but their ship would need months of repairs. Verthan watched helplessly as the human boarding party seemed to vanish, their pods phasing through his hull again. His mighty cruiser, pride of the Dominion fleet, had been thoroughly humiliated by what he had dismissed as primitives. "Damage report," he demanded, dreading the response. They improved our engine efficiency by 30%, his engineer reported in disbelief, but locked us out of the new configurations. And sir, they left a message. On every screen throughout the ship, in both human and Dominion text, glowed the words, "Thanks for the upgrade. We'll put it to good use. Sincerely, the Primitives." In his command pod, Martinez allowed himself a small laugh as the Ghostwalker turned to rejoin the human fleet. "I think we made our point. Who's up for hitting their flagship next?" The enthusiastic responses from his team reminded him why humans would never be conquered. They didn't just fight wars, they learned from them. And they were learning very, very quickly. Commander Emma Sullivan stood at the helm of the U.S. Barracuda, her converted nuclear submarine now serving as humanity's first true stealth vessel in space. The ship's quantum-enhanced hull absorbed all sensor readings, making them invisible to Dominion detection systems. "Sonar principles work just fine in space," she muttered, watching the gravitational wave detector display that had replaced her old acoustic readings. Sound or gravity waves, it's all about reading the ripples. The Dominion reinforcement fleet had arrived 10 minutes ago, their massive ships tearing holes in space-time itself as they emerged. They thought their numbers would overwhelm Earth's defenses. They hadn't counted on fighting humans who'd spent centuries perfecting the art of invisible warfare. "Contact bearing 035, her sensor officer reported, his voice carrying the same hushed tone submariners had used for generations. "Dominion heavy cruiser, moving into attack formation." Emma smiled. "Just like hunting boats in the South China Sea," she said. "Let them pass overhead. We'll strike from their blind spot." The Barracuda's crew, all veteran submariners, worked in perfect silence. Their ship, running dark except for essential systems, drifted through the debris field of previous battles. The quantum core hummed at minimal power, masked by the background radiation of destroyed vessels. Verthan's reinforcement commander, High Admiral Zextal, surveyed the tactical display with growing frustration. "Where are their ships? Our scouts report human vessels in this sector, but we detect nothing." Energy spike. His sensor officer called out, "Below us." Emma's voice carried across the Barracuda's command deck. "Launch shadow torpedoes, full spread. Let's show them why you never corner a hunter." The torpedoes, designed by combining submarine warfare doctrine with stolen Dominion tech, phased through debris and defensive screens alike. They struck from angles the aliens had never thought to defend, their quantum warheads bypassing shields entirely. "Multiple hits confirmed," her weapons officer reported with professional calm. "Target's quantum core is destabilizing." They never saw us coming. The Dominion cruiser's crystalline hull cracked, atmosphere venting into space. But Emma was already moving the Barracuda to its next attack position. Her flotilla of converted submarines, spread throughout the debris field, began their carefully coordinated dance of death. "Status of Operation Wolfpack?" she asked, watching multiple contacts emerge on her gravitational wave display. "All boats report ready," her XO confirmed. "The Seawolf, Hammerhead, and Kraken are in position. Dominion fleet is moving right where we want them." High Admiral Zextal watched in horror as ships began disappearing from his tactical display. "Impossible. Their technology is inferior. How are they masking their signatures so completely?" "Multiple hull breaches," his bridge crew reported. "We can't locate their firing positions." Emma's flotilla struck again and again, using the lessons learned from centuries of submarine warfare. The debris field became their hunting ground, every piece of wreckage a potential hiding spot. The Dominion's mighty warships, designed for head-to-head combat, found themselves being picked apart by an enemy they couldn't see. "They're adapting," Emma noted, watching the alien fleet's movement patterns change, beginning to understand the danger. "Time for Phase 2. She keyed her fleet-wide comm. "All boats, execute pattern Stingray. Show them what happens when you crowd a predator." The human vessels emerged from hiding simultaneously, their quantum cores pulsing with power. The Dominion fleet, spread out to search for them, suddenly found themselves surrounded. Each submarine-turned spaceship launched their remaining torpedoes in a synchronized attack that lit up space like artificial stars. Sextil's scales turned pale as his ships died around him. "They're not primitives," he whispered. "They're hunters. They've always been hunters." Emma watched the Dominion fleet's formation shatter, their mighty ships reduced to panic by an enemy they'd dismissed as technological infants. "Send word to command," she ordered. "Operation Wolfpack successful. The reinforcement fleet is neutralized." Her sensor officer spoke up. "Commander, detecting new quantum signatures. More Dominion ships incoming." Emma's predatory smile returned. "Good. We've still got torpedoes to spare. Let's remind them why you never threaten a planet full of apex predators." General Michael Harrison studied the holographic battle map in the Joint Chiefs Underground Command Center, watching as red dots representing Dominion ships tried to establish a blockade around Earth. Former adversaries, American, Chinese, Russian, and European space forces, now operated as one unified fleet, their centuries of military doctrine combining into something entirely new. "Status of the Melbourne defense grid?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of command. "Australian quantum batteries are at full capacity," Colonel Chen reported. "They're ready to power the shield network as soon as the Dominion takes the bait." Harrison nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays. The Dominion still hadn't realized that Earth's apparent defensive positions were actually an elaborate trap. Every failed attack had provided more data, more technology to analyze, more weaknesses to exploit. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "Dr. Mitchell's team reports success with the quantum field synchronization. All Earth-based weapons platforms are ready." "Signal all commands," Harrison ordered. "Operation Checkmate begins in 5 minutes." In orbit, Verthen's fleet regrouped after another failed attempt to breach Earth's apparently scattered defenses. His tactical officers had plotted what they believed were gaps in the human defense grid, gaps that seemed too obvious to be accidental, yet too tempting to ignore. "Launch the next wave," he commanded, his scales rippling with frustration. "Target their southern hemisphere installations. Their quantum shield coverage is weakest there." Harrison watched the Dominion ships take the bait. "Right where we want them," he murmured. "Signal Commander Sullivan's Wolfpacks to begin their attack runs." The converted submarines struck first, their stealth attacks herding the Dominion fleet toward predetermined coordinates. Lieutenant Martinez's Marines launched simultaneous boarding actions against 3 key enemy vessels, creating chaos in their command structure. "They're in position," Chen announced. "Melbourne grid is powered up and ready." Harrison's voice carried across all human command frequencies. "Execute primary protocol. Show them what Earth can really do." The trap was sprung. Quantum batteries across Earth's surface powered up simultaneously, creating not a defensive shield, but an interlocking web of gravitational distortions. The Dominion ships found themselves caught in artificial gravity wells, their superior maneuverability rendered useless. "By all that's sacred," Verthen gasped as his ships were snared. "The humans, they've weaponized their entire planet." "Second phase," Harrison commanded. "Colonel Hayes, your Phoenix squadrons have permission to engage." The converted human ships struck from multiple vectors, their weapons now fully integrated with stolen and improved Dominion technology. They fought like their namesake, rising from apparent destruction to strike again and again. "Sir," Chen's voice carried urgent news. "Dominion ships are attempting to quantum tunnel through our gravity web." Harrison smiled grimly. "Just as Dr. Mitchell predicted. Signal all batteries to execute Protocol Omega." The gravity web didn't just trap the Dominion ships. It began to reshape itself, creating overlapping fields that stressed their quantum crystalline hulls to the breaking point. The aliens found their own technology being used against them in ways their engineers had never imagined possible. "They're adapting to the gravitational attacks," Chen reported. "Of course they are," Harrison replied. "That's why we have contingencies. Signal the Russian Space Command to launch Operation Winter Storm." New human vessels emerged from hidden positions in the asteroid belt, their hybrid drives leaving trails of blue fire across space. The Russians had taken Dominion engine technology and modified it for raw power over efficiency, creating ships that moved with devastating speed and force. Verthan watched in horror as his trapped fleet faced attacks from all sides. How? He demanded. How did they develop countermeasures so quickly? Because you gave us time to think, Harrison murmured, though the alien commander couldn't hear him. And humans have spent their entire history thinking about war. The battle map showed Dominion ships breaking apart under the combined assault. Their superior technology, designed for civilized warfare between advanced species, proved inadequate against humanity's savage creativity. Sir, Chen reported with quiet pride, the enemy fleet is in full retreat. Shall we pursue? Harrison studied the tactical display, watching the remaining Dominion ships flee. No need, he replied. They'll be back with a larger force, and we'll be ready with a few more surprises. The general allowed himself a small smile. The Dominion had expected to find primitive savages. Instead, they'd awakened humanity's true nature, a species that had spent its entire existence preparing for this moment, whether they knew it or not. Dr. Amanda Mitchell stood before the holographic display in her underground laboratory, her eyes reflecting the quantum probability curves that danced through the air. The captured Dominion technology surrounded her team's workstations, their crystalline surfaces now covered in human modifications. They got it wrong, she muttered, running another simulation. Their entire understanding of quantum mechanics is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of wave-particle duality. Her assistant, Dr. Robert Nash, looked up from his own calculations. How did an advanced civilization miss something so basic? Because they never had to fight for it, Amanda replied, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. They inherited their technology from precursor civilizations. We had to discover everything the hard way. The quantum core from a captured Dominion frigate pulsed with energy as they tested their latest modifications. James would have loved this, she thought, remembering her lost friend. His death at the lunar base had driven her to unlock the secrets of alien technology faster than anyone thought possible. New test results coming in, Robert announced. The modified shield harmonics are showing a 300% increase in efficiency. Amanda nodded, but her attention was on something else. Look at these energy patterns, she said, highlighting a section of the display. Their quantum drives don't just bend space, they're barely scratching the surface of what's possible. In orbit, Verthan received increasingly disturbing reports from his science officers. The humans are doing what? He demanded, his scales shifting to colors that indicated disbelief. They're improving our technology, his chief scientist replied. Their understanding of quantum mechanics is evolving at an impossible rate. They're not just copying our systems, they're revolutionizing them. Amanda's team worked through the night, fueled by coffee and determination. Each captured piece of alien tech revealed new possibilities, new ways to combine human ingenuity with advanced science. The breakthroughs came faster and faster. Energy injection test in 3, 2, 1. Robert counted down. The quantum core flared with brilliant light, its crystalline structure resonating at frequencies the Dominion had never achieved. Where alien engineers saw limits, human scientists saw possibilities. Where Dominion doctrine accepted barriers, Earth's researchers found ways through them. Send these specifications to General Harrison, Amanda ordered, her eyes bright with triumph. The next generation of hybrid ships will make their current fleet look obsolete. Across the planet, other research teams built on her discoveries. Chinese quantum physicists combined ancient philosophy with cutting-edge science. Russian engineers merged their expertise in heavy machinery with alien propulsion systems. European scientists refined the technology's efficiency to unprecedented levels. Dr. Mitchell. Colonel Wells burst into the lab. The Dominion fleet is launching a new offensive. They've modified their shields based on our last encounter. Amanda smiled. Too late, she said, pulling up new schematics. "We're not where we were yesterday. We're not even where we were an hour ago." The display showed Earth's latest adaptation, quantum fields that didn't just deflect energy, but redirected it, strengthened it, turned the enemy's own power against them. Every Dominion attack would only make Earth's defenses stronger. "Ready to deploy the new configurations?" Robert asked, his hands hovering over the transmission controls. "Upload them to all commands," Amanda confirmed. "And send my compliments to Commander Sullivan's submarine fleet. Their stealth systems are about to get a major upgrade." Verthen's scientific advisor interrupted his battle planning with news that drained the color from his scales. "Commander," the advisor reported, "human understanding of quantum mechanics has surpassed our own. Their rate of advancement is beyond anything in our records." "How is this possible?" Verthen demanded. "They think differently," the advisor replied. "Where we see technology as a tool, they see it as a challenge. Where we accept limitations, they see them as problems to be solved." In her lab, Amanda initiated the final testing sequence for their latest breakthrough. The quantum core's crystal structure began to shift, achieving configurations the Dominion had thought impossible. "James always said our research would change everything," she whispered to herself. "I wish he could see how right he was." The future of warfare was changing, and humanity wasn't just keeping pace. They were leading the revolution. The Dominion was about to learn that giving humans access to advanced technology wasn't just a mistake. It was possibly the greatest miscalculation in galactic history. The Dominion's retreat began as an orderly withdrawal. It ended as a desperate flight for survival. Colonel Rebecca Hayes stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, Earth's first purpose-built starship, combining human and Dominion technology. The vessel's quantum core hummed with power that the aliens had never dreamed possible, its hybrid systems pushing the boundaries of known physics. Multiple Dominion ships attempting emergency quantum jumps, her sensor officer reported. "They're running scared, Colonel." Rebecca watched the tactical display, where retreating alien vessels flickered between dimensions. "Maintain pursuit courses. Commander Sullivan's wolfpacks have their escape routes mapped. General Harrison's strategy is working perfectly." In his flagship's command center, Verthen faced the unthinkable: defeat. His scales had turned the pale gray of absolute terror as reports flooded in from across the system. Humans' vessels emerging from quantum space. His tactical officer shouted, "They've mastered faster than light travel in weeks. Their targeting systems are locked on our engines." "Impossible," Verthen whispered, but the evidence filled his screens. The humans hadn't just learned to use Dominion technology. They'd revolutionized it. Their ships phased through space in ways his engineers claimed couldn't work. Their weapons bypassed defenses that had protected his people for millennia. Dr. Amanda Mitchell's voice carried across all frequencies, human and alien alike. "Attention Dominion forces. Your quantum shield configurations are now completely compromised. Your engine matrices are vulnerable to our targeting systems. You have one chance to surrender." Verthen watched in horror as human vessels demonstrated their superiority. Their weapons didn't just damage Dominion ships, they disabled them with surgical precision, their improved quantum fields allowing them to selectively phase through alien defenses. "How?" he demanded of his science officer. "How did they advance so quickly?" "They think differently," came the terrified reply. "They don't just adapt technology. They transform it. Every defeat taught them. Every loss made them stronger." Rebecca's voice cut through the command channel. "All ships, execute final protocol. Show them why you never corner a species that turned their own planet into a battlefield." Earth's combined fleet moved with devastating coordination. Commander Sullivan's submarine tactics had been adapted for quantum space warfare. Lieutenant Martinez's Marines had mastered boarding actions that ignored conventional physics. Dr. Mitchell's improvements had turned borrowed technology into something entirely new. Signal from the Dominion flagship, Rebecca's communications officer reported. "They're begging for mercy." Verthen's message echoed across space. "Please, you've won. We surrender. Just tell us how. How did you achieve this? The response came from General Harrison himself. You gave us no choice. Humanity has spent its entire history preparing for this moment. We just didn't know it. Every war, every battle, every conflict taught us something. When you threatened us, you gave us access to advanced technology and a reason to master it. In her laboratory, Amanda watched the final data streams from the battle. Send the warning packet, she ordered. Let the galaxy know what happened here. The quantum broadcast reached across space, carrying a simple message to every civilization in range. Attention all species. The Sol system is now under humanity's protection. We did not seek this war. We did not start this conflict. But we have ended it. Any further aggression against Earth will be met with the full force of our combined military and technological might. We are humanity. We learn. We adapt. We overcome. And we never forget those who threaten our home. Verithan, watching his mighty fleet reduced to scattered refugees, finally understood. The Dominion hadn't found a primitive species to conquer. They'd awakened something far more dangerous. A civilization that had spent its entire existence learning how to fight, adapt, and win at any cost. As the last Dominion ships flood into quantum space, Rebecca allowed herself a moment of reflection. Send word to Earth, she ordered. Operation Sovereign Space is complete. And get me a status report on those captured Dominion vessels. Dr. Mitchell's team will want to start the next round of improvements immediately. The stars themselves seemed to shimmer as humanity's ships took up defensive positions around their world. They had been challenged. They had been threatened. And they had emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. Earth was no longer just another world awaiting conquest. It had become something else, a warning to the cosmos about the terrible price of underestimating human potential.